It's about that time. Very warm welcome to yet another RAF, Royal Air Force Club virtual event. Through adversities to the skies, the flies and lows. A classic comment from my old friend, Martin Lloyd. We served together in RAF Germany. A tornado navigator, but we'll forgive him for that. Just to remind you that we will be recording the session, and if you wish to ask questions, please just go in the Q&A section, and I'll go through those, and we'll have as many questions as we can for Martin. He has a fascinating story, always a good bloke, I tell you that. As I say, yes, we can all tell tornado stories, but in many respects, his life took a turn which made his story far more engaging. So welcome to Martin. I will now hand over to him, and I look forward to an extremely interesting evening. I will sign off. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, John, and good evening, my friends in England and my friends in America, because it's morning here. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I've got my my tea, and I understand that you guys are off to the pub either before, now, or after, or maybe it's even in the pub now. So that's interesting because you're open again in the UK. So I fully expect you to be talking to 2 or 3 people in America now, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. Anyway, so yes, the flies and the lows. So I joined the Her Majesty's Royal Air Force in 1982 during the Falklands War, or around the Falklands War time. So I missed that war because I was in training for the Venerable Nimrod. I was NCO aircrew, Sergeant aircrew in the backs of the Nimrod. And this is, I tell people now why I've left the Air Force was really because of safety. And why I say safety is I kept getting shot at. Now, the first time I got shot at was on the Nimrod. In fact, that's why I mentioned that. We were in the Mediterranean, operating out of Gibraltar, 201 Squadron Kinloss, out of Gibraltar this time, with chasing submarines in the Mediterranean. And at one point, captain said, who's in the beam window? And I said, Lloyd. And he said, okay, so have a look at that ship down there. It's signaling with Aldis at us, you know, the lamp. And I said, okay, great. So I looked out the window, looked down and said, hang on, Skipper, it's not Aldis. They're actually firing at us. Right, okay, so the Hellenic Greek Navy had opened up a firing range and not told anybody. And we happened to be there at the time. So that was the first time I was shot at. The second time I transferred to the Tornado, backseat of Tornado now, we were out in Goose Bay in Canada doing low flying. And we set off as a pair. We taxied out, and I can't remember whether this one was broken and we was broken, and in the end we just both taxied back. We got back, shut down, got out, and the chief went, excuse me, have you seen this? And there were a whole bunch of shotgun pellets in the tail. So that was the second time I was shot at. I think the Canadians didn't like us low flying or something like that. And the third time was by the Iraqis. We were doing Operation Deny Flight after the war. So that was the second war I missed. I was in training. I was at Broady when the first Gulf War kicked off. And then I ended up on the policing duties down there after the war. So still got shot at, but it's just mainly low stuff. So not compared to what many of you guys have gone through. And thank you for your service, as they say over here. But at the end of the day, yeah, okay, I use that on my comedic speaking on stage and say, right, this is what I left the Air Force for. But it came to, I was a 35-year-old navigator on a second tour, long in the tooth because I was a retread. What the hell was my future going to be? So I looked at it, and the first round of voluntary redundancies came up. So long story short, I took one of those, was successful in getting one, got a pension out of it as well. And so I thought, right, I've got money to do what I need to do. But I looked around, what do I want to do? And it was actually my wife, Rosie at the time, said, well, what do you really want to do? And I said, well, you know, it's not even worth thinking about. She said, why not? What do you want to do? Well, I want to be an airline pilot. So, and I've been there since I was 6. My Aunt Gillian had given me a Spitfire model for Christmas, an Airfix model. And I loved airplanes right from when I was 6. So, and I graduated to wanting to be airlines. I don't know why, but I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. COVID. So they, I thought, okay, well, I'll be an airline pilot. And she said, well, you've got the money now. Why can't you do that? So I looked at it and worked out the numbers and thought, well, I could do a course at Cab Air in Cranfield, come out with a full frozen ATPL, and then get a job hopefully within 6 months, because if I didn't get a job within 6 months, we'd be destitute. So did my course, graduated, and got a job with Manx Airlines, in fact, based on the Isle of Man, but actually I was based in Leeds. And I was very, very happy with that. I'd achieved my lifehood's ambition, as a boy had ambition, rather. It took me 30 years, but I got there. And I was an airline pilot. Super. So I had it all. I had my wife and I had 3 adopted children. I had the cars and the mortgage, and we were about to move up from Swaffham to Leeds. So that was on the plan. I went away for 2 weeks on holiday while the missus sorted out all the arrangements. That was great for me. That's fine. On the way back, which is May of 1998, I've been an airline pilot for just 13 months. I was involved in a small fracas with a motor vehicle. I was on my motorbike, and it looked like he fell asleep. The old boy fell asleep, drifted onto my side of the road. It was in south of Swaffham on the Thetford Forest. So I was coming up through that road, and it looked like he was going to be in my carriageway, and we were going to come together. I moved into the carriage to the grass verge. He moved in with me, and it looked like, from my eyewitnesses, that we were going to pass wing mirror to wing mirror, and it was going to be close, but that was what it was going to be. At the last minute, though, we think he woke up and went, ugh, and saw my headlight and turned. Now, unfortunately, he turned into me, onto my side of the road. He was there anyway. My right leg took the brunt of the impact between the car and the motorcycle. It split my pelvis open, broke my femoral artery. I went across the bonnet of the car. This arm smashed the windscreen and the A-pillar, and I bounced off down the road. When I skidded on the ground, when I landed on the parking at the what's it called, the picnic area, the grass, that saved my life. Why? Because I went down on my back, my legs open, and the mud and muck plugged the wound that was my femoral artery. Otherwise, I'd have bled to death. I came to a stop. I was still conscious. The wound was very dirty, but it had stopped bleeding. So the first person to get to me was a psychiatric nurse. The second person was a guy with a mobile phone, cell phone, probably a brick then, back in 98. But anyway, so they called the ambulance. I then started to choke. They took my helmet off, which I know is against the rules, but I guess I needed to do that. Got to the ambulance. As I say, I was conscious right to going down into surgery. So I could tell them which bits hurt, my name, I was married, blah, blah, blah. So, and I've been back to the site. I've been back to the hospital ICU, and don't remember any of it, which is, I think, a good memory to lose. And so they put me under to start the operation. I wasn't that well enough to undergo a full operation initially. I think I was doing 6 hours. They took the leg off initially above the knee, left my arm to one side because that was sort of, too badly damaged to either come off or even stay there. So they just leave it to one side, save his life. So I had no neck injuries, no head injuries, no spinal injuries, which is unbelievable in that kind of smash. But I was very ill. So the chief pilot of the company, Doug Hale, who some of you may know, he was told by the company, go down to Norfolk, sort out the company, sort out the family. So he did very well with the company and stuff like that, which is great. And I'm indebted to him and thank him for that from the bottom of my heart. He looked after my family and my wife, and that was because they were obviously in pieces. I wasn't there. I'd had 10 days in a coma, and they said the longer he's out, because we stopped his drugs to keep him under, so the longer he's out, the more chance he'll have of brain damage. But of course, no one knows, as an ex-navigator, how much brain damage I've got. because that's the way it is. However, as I said earlier on to John, yes, I am a navigator. However, now I am a pilot. But there we go. Anyway, so yes. So then I came round and started the recovery. In that one crash, I broke 43 bones. As I said, I split my pelvis open, femoral artery, all that kind of stuff. And so I had 53 x-rays. I had 53 pints of blood, because every time they tried to flush the wound through, it was very dirty. They had to have a new transfusion and blah. So yeah, 3 months in the hospital, came out, and you get very goal orientated. Well, when this happens, I'm going to be fine again. But actually, you're not. It's all changed. And you think, well, how the hell would I get through this? Why? Because you have to get through this. There's no choice. And people say, oh yeah, weren't you brave? And they've said it to John, I know that. Weren't you brave? Well, no, you weren't brave, because bravery is going back into that building to rescue the damsel in distress when it's on fire. That's bravery. It's a choice. We didn't have a choice, John and I, and the other, and John Nichol. We didn't have a choice. The guys that got shot down didn't have a choice. I, in a way, was shot down. I didn't have a choice. You have to carry on. Yes, okay, you could stop, but no, it's not in my nature. So, okay, so where are we now? So I've lost all my licenses. I lost my flying license, my driving license, my HGV, my bike license, and it was just, now what do I do? I can't provide for my family. I can't pay the mortgage. So what do I do? Well, I looked around and thought, what have I got? I've got all this experience as a military aviator, but I've got enough experience as a civilian aviator to be dangerous. But I have this experience in a wheelchair. So what can I do? So I prostituted myself around the airlines like I'd done 2 years before to get a pilot job, because now the idea was, well, hang on. The guys that you load onto the airplane, the wheelchair users, the master race on 4 wheels, they're the guys that are not loaded on by British Airways or Manx Airlines or anybody in the airline. They're loaded on by Serco or other companies, third-party people. So I thought, okay, I could write a report on the third-party people. So Air 2000 signed me up and said, right, we can do that. We'll send you off to places you can write reports. So they sent me to the south of Spain, one of the islands, I think, and if I remember rightly. And so I go down there, I get off, and there's no air bridge. Right, so how do I get me off? Well, what they do is they bring a little aisle wheelchair on, which is a narrow torture device. They strap you into that, and then hopefully they put you in a truck that's an elevated truck, and it has a bed on it, and you come down in a nice little caravan, as it were. Super. Not in this place, no. So this place, there's no bed like that. There's no truck like that. So what they do is they have the aisle wheelchair, and then 2 big strapping guys take you down the stairs like on a stretcher, which is pretty scary because you're strapped in. You've got 3 pairs of straps over your shoulders, around your arms. So I'm strapped in like in a straitjacket. I've got a Velcro strap across my one leg, and everything else is strapped. I can't move. So then they drag you to the top of the air stairs, and I'm looking down now over 30 feet thinking, well, how are we going to get down? But remember the situation. 2 guys come and pick you up like on a stretcher, which is still scary. Because if the guy below you trips and falls, I go head over heels, and I can't save myself. So I'm going to spoil my boyish good looks that I've worked so hard to save over these years. So anyway, so the guy brings up the aisle wheelchair to me, and he puts it in front of me because I'm the last on the airplane, because I'm the privileged one getting off last. So in his best pidgin English, remember he's Spanish, he goes, indicating sit on the chair. So I can stand up and hop around with my one good leg, but I'm playing the person who can't. I'm playing the wheelchair user who's stuck in a seat. So my best pidgin Spanish, and I show him what I've got, and he goes, and he pushes the chair closer right next to me. So I get in, and he straps me in and pushes me to the top of the air stairs. Right, in a minute, his oppo is going to come up and drag me downstairs. No, there's only him. So he stands at the top end of the chair with the handles, and he bumps me down every single step of the air stairs. We get to the bottom, and I'm trying to push my fillings back in and trying to work out how to get my retina back in and reattach my retina. And his job's done now. He's got me off the airplane. So what does he do? He buggers off. And I just, and that's where the flight attendants come in. They got me unstrapped, got me in the chair, and off we go. So that was just one interesting report. Second time I was sent to Greece. And by the way, I just like to point out I'm an equal opportunities offender. So I offend every race and creed out there. I know it's not very political in America. However, that's what I do. Bit of grey hair, that's the thing I'm into nowadays. So if I offend the group that you're in, cry me a river, build me a bridge, and get over it. If I don't offend the group you're in, well, you're just lucky this day. But here we go to Greece, which is unfortunately a third world country. I'm sorry for the Greeks out there. We get there. However, there is an air bridge. Super. The way the schedule worked out this particular time, I'm staying overnight. So I can't come back the same day, which is what I usually did. So, but this time I'm staying overnight. So we get off the airplane. They wheel me to the top of the air stairs, the air bridge rather. Now, in this particular airport, they use golf carts to get people around. Remember the story. I can stand up, I can hop around, I can actually sit on a golf cart, but I'm playing the person who can't. So I'm sat there in the chair. So the guy comes up, the driver, and there's a couple of blue hairs out and old ladies in the golf cart already. And he goes to me in his best pidgin English rather, as in get on the cart. My best pidgin Greek, I can't. So he goes, and he gets in the golf cart, starts it up, and he's off. Hang on. Now they're closing down the lights now with the last airplane in. Even the crew are gone. There's tumbleweed going around the concourse there, and I'm thinking, well, where do I go? And then all the old dears are going, oh, we'll come back for you, darling. I think, well, how? So what does he do? He does a 270 right, comes up behind me, grabs the stroller handle on the back of the wheelchair, and we're off. He's pushing me next to his golf cart as he's driving. Oh, okay, off we go then. So of course he's the Greek Adonis, isn't he? He likes to say hello to ladies. So each time he goes past a gate, he says hello, he waves at the girls. With what? His left hand. The left hand is holding on to my wheelchair. So hi, and of course I now start to slow down, and he grabs me. So I'm going jerking down the whole concourse like this. Right. Then we come up about above this 5 knots or something in this chair. My front wheels start to vibrate. So they start to vibrate, and he looks down, he feels the vibration, and he goes, and he puts his foot down. We're going even faster now. There's a contrail coming off the other stroller handle, and it's just, geez, round the right-hand bend. I'm going round on 2 wheels, but land sakes, another report to write. But it's just, the advantage of coming off last is that your bag's the last one going around the turntable when you come down. Oh, that's mine. So that's not so bad. But it's we go to the hotel and they say, Mr. Lloyd, yeah, you're up on the first floor. Sorry, elevator here. Oh, good. Okay, there's an elevator. Super. That's great. We like that. So I'll go around the corner. Now this is where, to my American audiences, I introduce the subject of irony, which British guys know about, of course. And so, but the Americans, I explain it as nothing to do with laundry, irony. It's sarcasm and funny. So here's the sarcasm and funny bit. Now I go into, we don't do metric over here, and I've got back into that having brought up with it as a child. So my chair here is 2 feet wide, which is ironic considering I've only got 1. Anyway, it makes those winter evenings just fly by. Anyway, so yes, it's 2 feet wide. So we go up to the lift, and the lift is 18 inches wide. Now, for those of you who are metric and those of you who are not maths graduates, 18 inches is less than 2 feet, which is 24. So I can't get my chair in the elevator, in the lift. I mean, some of the people you see on the emails out there, on call them the wall Martians, You couldn't get them in that lift sideways, let alone forwards. But it just beggars belief to me. Why they put this lift in when it's never going to be used? So anyway, I got a ground floor and off we go. So another couple of interesting reports to write on that one. So then all was going well, except now we have 9/11. So 9/11 happened, and you know, like America, Britain bled as well because we lost people as well. But what the airlines took a chance to do then was go, you know, we can't afford this route. So what we're going to do, we're going to stop it. So they cut down loads of routes to cut prices and save money. But they also thought, well, we don't need any self-employed contractors, so we'll get rid of those as well. Out. So I'm now on my own again and no income. Crap. So loss and bereavement. Yeah, I've got a t-shirt under here. Yeah, I've done all that. So I mean, oh, now what the hell do I do? Well, you know, actually, I want to go flying. I actually want to fly again. So one thing that they do in the UK, whether you with a major bike crash, a major car crash rather, or a flying crash, is you lose your license. Why? It's automatic. It's safety. All right, then you have to fight to get it back again. In America, it's a right. Over there, of course, it's a privilege, and we'll let you use our bat and our ball if we want you to. So I tell you what, tea is nice with rum in it. So then we got, I said, okay, I want to fly again. So I called the CAA. So I'd like to fly again. Oh no, you can't do that. Well, why not? Well, we haven't got any rules for one-legged pilots. Oh, okay, can I make some up? No. What about if I, no. Can I do a medical? No. What about if I do? No. I guess the answer is no then. So I came across to America. There was a guy up in Big Bear in east of Los Angeles who was a helicopter pilot, ex-army helicopter pilot, American. He had crashed crop dusting after the Vietnam War. He used to fly gunships in the Vietnam War. And he crashed after that in the Bell 47 when his crop dusting and the skids caught underneath the power line, tipped him over upside down, broke his back. So he was the first real guy to say, I want to fly again. The FAA are a lot more amenable. I mean, the CA are a lot better nowadays. And the EASA, oh, don't get me started. But the FAA a lot more amenable, and they said, well, you know, if you can prove it. So he proved he could be a commercial pilot, and he is. He's a commercial pilot, flight instructor, and he had a flight school in Big Bear that taught disabled people to fly. Now, I don't need any hand controls in the airplane because the way I fly an airplane is, well, one-handed, because that's the good hand. I can hold the controls with this hand, which is the bad hand, while I fiddle with the radios. And then the feet is, you don't really need them too much in the air. Single engine, piston engine airplanes, yes, you do. But I've only got one. I need one. You press one pedal and it goes the way you want it to. You don't have to have the foot on the other one. On the ground, for those of you who are not pilots, to go to taxi left and right, you press the left pedal, the airplane turns left, you press the right pedal, airplanes turn right. On the ground. When you come to a stop, you have what they call toe brakes. So the toe brakes are on each pedal, and you press the left toe brake first, and the aircraft turns to a very quick turn on the right, to the left rather, vice versa on the left, on the right rather. But if you press both together, then you come to a halt. Both together. So what I do in an airplane, I put my foot across and heel and toe to operate the rudders that way, the toe brakes that way. And I can stop an airplane in a quite strong crosswind, stop it going off the runway, which is a good technique to have. That's all I need. So, so that's how I fly an airplane. So I managed to fly it again in my condition, getting used to things. And when I got my FAA private license and instrument rating. So I got that, and there was one music incident where I'm doing touch and goes, circuits and bumps, whatever you want to call them, and we touched down, I applied power and the wrong pedal. So the aircraft careens off towards the maintenance hangar across the other side of the runway. And I remember the guys looking up, and it was a bit of a deer in the headlights moment. They was, you know, it was a double take as I was coming towards them at like 50 miles an hour, sort of thing, 40 miles an hour. And I thought, now this might hurt. What's going to happen now is I haven't got enough speed to get airborne, but I've got just enough speed to get over the storm drain on the far side and get onto the taxiway to get speed to get airborne. So I had a plan. Fortunately, I didn't need it because I got enough speed to get airborne across the runway, which I did, and climb away. And I turned to my instructor, Mike, and said, well, when were you going to take over? And he said, two things. I thought you were coping anyway. And secondly, I had my eyes shut. So it was something else to be amused about. There you go. You've got to be happy when you can. So got my FAA licenses, went back to the UK, said, CAA, I've got my American licenses. And they went, oh. Well, we'll give you your commercial back, your British commercial, but you're not allowed to fly passengers. Why not? Well, it's safety. And of course, you can't argue with safety, because if you start saying, well, can't we just, or they're going to say, oh, you don't want to be safe. All right. So I've got my commercial back. I can kill horses, but I can't kill people as a commercial pilot. I guess that's the rationale. So I'm a realist. I know that the airlines pay lots and lots of money to do surveys to find out what people want in their atypical pilot, in their atypical captain. So they want someone with a bit of grey hair, big peak cap, gold bars, and that's great. That's what they want in a pilot. But they also want someone who's got two legs and two good arms. So I'm a realist. I know that's not going to happen in my case. It's not like Carry On Screaming, where you odd job can plug his finger into the power socket and then grow another leg back or whatever. It's not going to happen. So, all right, it's not going to happen. So I was in the flying school one day on the Isle of Man, and the guy that was doing the handiwork, they were short of an instructor. So he was trying to get his commercial license so he could become an instructor. But on that day, as I walked in, he just failed his third attempt at his first round of exams, which, as those of you who've done these before know, if you failed the third time, you have to do it all again, start all again. So he was pretty upset. So I go in, he threw the rejection letter back at me and said, you can frigging do this. And I thought, hey, actually I can. So I went to the CAA. Hello, it's me again. Can I be an instructor? Oh. Well, you'll have to pass a course. Okay. And a medical flight check. Okay. So I did. I passed them both, and I became, as far as we know, the first handicap flight instructor in Europe. And I started, when I first was instructing, I started telling people that this was a result of a motorcycle crash, not airplanes and blah, blah, blah. And you could see, they're just eyes glaze over, can't we go flying? Shut up. Oh, okay, right, so we'll go flying then. So I just never spoke about it after a while. People didn't matter. I was instructor, so who cares? So I did that a couple of years on the Isle of Man, and then thought, well, this is crap because the weather's always bad. So I emailed all the companies in America at that stage, or not companies, but the flight schools at that stage did the European flying license. Then it was the JAR license. And one company in San Diego came back and said, yeah, we'll use you if we need to. If you need to. That's not good enough. So I came over on holiday and said, hello, this is my resume. And they went, or my CV, sorry, my CV. And they said, hang on, you come 5,500 miles, give us your CV. Yep. Okay. So then I managed to get a visa as the head of handicap flight training. And that was 2003. I was there ever since. So, 5 years after my crash, I died twice on the operating theatre, in the operating theatre. So now I'm just 23 years old. It doesn't look bad, that. And I thought, so although I keep looking at myself in the mirror when I'm shaving, thinking, who's the old boy behind me? I can't see. Anyway, so yes, ha ha ha. So I got my license to stay, and I've been there ever since. So I grew to become the head of training for the flight school in San Diego, and that was fine. I also thought, well, I'm not going to sit and rest on my laurels because they're prickly. So I want to learn to fly helicopters, because that's what I wanted to do in the Air Force. I was commissioned initially as a GDP, and there was a place on my course at Church Fenton for a helicopter pilot, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to save people's lives rather than bomb them, but I couldn't pass Spineros. Different story. Anyway, so I thought I could perhaps do helicopter flying. And my friend said, well, yeah, we can teach you to fly helicopters. Okay, great. This is how I fly helicopters. For those of you who are gifted helicopter master race people like myself. So flying a helicopter, you've got a central stick between your legs. So I can't put my one foot across and dance on the pedal like I do in an airplane. So I use a dog collar, a muzzle. So I put the muzzle on the left-hand anti-torque and pull and push. Because as you pull the pedal towards you, the other one, the right-hand one, goes forward. So I'm not taught to press the right pedal, I'm taught to pull the left one back, which is good news and bad news. And the good news and bad news is I don't have a right leg at all. The hip is there, but the leg isn't. There's nothing there of the leg. So one of the officers lost a leg. Anyway, so for the Monty Python fans. So my brain knows that if the brain says right pedal input needed, it doesn't say move left foot across, it just says pull left foot back. Is that an advantage? Well, it is the one I've got. But for those of you who aren't helicopter pilots, you've also got a lever down by your left hip that you pull up and push down to go up and down. And there's a little twist grip throttle on the end that increases the power, because the blades need to be wound up to go up, and it tries to screw the fuselage down into the ground. As the opposite Newton's law, every action has a third and opposite, as a equal opposite reaction, Newton's third law. So yeah, it's patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time, and I do that with my one damaged arm, and it works quite nicely. So I'm a helicopter pilot as well, the first in North America, as far as we know, leg amputee helicopter pilot. There are guys out there with damaged limbs, damaged arms, and even lower legs, but luxury. I've got a whole leg missing, so it's a lot more difficult for me. So that's where I got to the stage of, all right, that's the fun I'm having. And then we had, bring it up to date, and we had COVID. COVID hit, and so having the European people coming across to America to learn to fly and train, that wasn't an option, because not only could they not get visas because the embassies were closed, but of course you can't travel. So it's a double whammy, really. So our client base dried up. So basically I was unemployed since last March, and because there's no income and I don't get a job. So on the dole for the first time ever, which was a bit of a difficult thing to do. I'd come over on my own because my wife, who was at that stage 12 years, which is 3 years after my crash, she decided to up and leave, and she decided to up and leave with the owner of the flight school that I was working for whom I was working. So I decided to leave that. So that was why I really decided to go elsewhere. So that's that a bit, but you know, here we are, a lot of vodka under the bridge. I'm still in contact with her, not him, strangely, but that's just anyway. So yeah, so we're up to date with that side of thing. COVID hit, and okay, well, our client base dried up. So I thought, well, now what do I do? So then I looked around. Well, yeah, I've always had a sort of penchant for law enforcement, of all things. I applied to the Met, London Met, when I left the Air Force. I left school, but the Air Force came up first, and I really wanted to fly. So that was what I decided to do. So I looked over here. Now, in my condition, I can't be a law enforcement officer. I can't be a sworn officer, and that's just not going to happen. So I chose next best thing. I work for a local police department here in southern San Diego, and it's a wonderful bunch of people. And what it is, I used to volunteer as a parking enforcement officer And what it is, it's the camaraderie that I missed from the Air Force that didn't really know I'd missed. So back in the Air Force, you look back, all of us, and you look back and think, well, yeah, okay, there were some bad points, but really it was good times, good times. And those are the things you have to remember, because you can remember all those little tiny bits of black, but really it's the white things, yes, the white paint and the good times that you had. And that's the camaraderie that I missed. I didn't really realize it because you don't get that in the civilian world. So we got to the stage of, all right, I was a volunteer with the police department. I got on well with the officers, the team and stuff. And I thought, this is the camaraderie I want. So I managed to get myself taken on in a data analysis role in the police department. And that's where I am now. So I've gone on to probably my, let's see, my third or fourth career at the tender age of, and so it's just a case of, yeah, how many people can get to the situation where they can say, I've got another career out of it? Super. Whereas you think back to, you know, guys that you may know, that guys and girls you may know, who've never had the career of their dreams. They've always bummed around through job after job, no end job to no end job. So it's just a case of, okay, but I'm very pleased with my lot. I have the girl of my dreams. We just bought the house of our dreams, which we're doing up. So it means that if you want to guys want to come over to San Diego, we're going to have spare rooms for you guys on our property. That's going to be running goats and chickens and donkeys, and that's all my other half's doing, not me. She's the one with the huge heart. I'm much more the let's just sit and do nothing. I've got a great penchant for doing nothing every now and again. So I think that's a good thing that needs to be done, especially at my age. So it's very strange when you go to these odd things, and I go to fall back into the comedy, and at my age I drop into Yorkshire. I don't know why. I mean, Yorkshire is my second heart in Yorkshire. I'm a Londoner, born and bred, but most of my life in the Air Force was up and down the A1 in Yorkshire. I love Yorkshire. I miss it terribly, and so so there's that. But it's I enjoyed my time in Germany. I've enjoyed my time over here. It's been strange with the different politics, as you can imagine, but then no different to anywhere else. Politicians are always, well, as I always say, the desire to go into politics should ban you for life, as far as I'm concerned. But I think Billy Connolly said it, but I said it first. Okay, so there we are. So now that's where I am nowadays. I've given up the public speaking, which I used to do, and I used to do the stand-up comedy, and believe it or not, go around the gigs and stuff like that. But no one pays me to do that. So I thought, well, what's the point of not being paid? Now, after the speaking, at least you get a free meal out of it sometimes and expenses. But now that doesn't happen because we're not doing the afternoon speaking at the moment. So I don't know if that's going to take off again, but I'm quite happy to do so. And I've spoken to anybody, doctors and attorneys, lawyers, whatever. So whoever wants to give me a sort of free lunch to come and do it, really. So there's that. Now I don't know. Here we are. What we've got a full 20 minutes for questions, really. But I've told you how I fly helicopters, and that doesn't really happen much anymore because it's too expensive. Even here in America, it's too expensive. And the helicopter I'm rated on, there aren't that many of them around, the Hughes 300. So there's that. But it's, yeah, I try and get to the club at least once a year. For those of you who might see me there, I do stick out. I'm on wheels with a missing leg. It's something that, and I find this is a quick aside, the differences in UK and America with people. Now, in the UK, people want to know what happened to me, but they don't want to ask. Oh, good Lord, no, we can't ask it. And you get people coming up, or kids coming up to me in supermarkets and go, what happened to you? Whereas mum and dad go, no, don't bother the nice man. No, leave him alone. No, I'm quite happy to talk about me. It's my favorite subject. In America, they're much more likely, the adults are much more likely to say, what the heck happened to you then? And I can come out with that. They're more forward, they're more open like that. And I find it, at service stations, you think about when there's a handicapped restaurant, and I have to wait outside someone because there's normally somebody inside it. And I'm waiting there in the public eye, and they walk around up and down. You see people and go, have you seen him yet? You got one leg. Look, have you seen this guy? Hello, I can hear you. Hello. It's very rude. But I guess that's the way people are. That's the way people are. It's and the facilities. I mean, and hopefully you guys will never find out about this stuff. But some of the restrooms, the toilets, the bathrooms, you go in, and it's a nice long access to get to the pan, and there's rails and a big mirror, and it's great. Okay, fine. And then you go in, and it's not wide enough to close the door, to turn around. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe I should come in backwards. So I come in backwards, close the door, and now I can't turn around to use the porcelain. It can be very frustrating. And I've had that. I've had the airlines have lost my false leg in luggage. It can be frustrating. And you have to get used to it in any walk of life, And why do I do it? Why? Because I can. I'm here again after dying twice. The sun's out. It's now blue sky out there. It's coming up through 17 degrees today. You know, I live in Southern California and fly helicopters for fun. It can't get any better than this, really. Would this be the way I wanted to do it? Oh, hell no. Hell no. And if someone had read my fortune when I was 16, oh yeah, you're going to be living on a tax haven, the Isle of Man. I'm thinking, wow, I'd be, you know, a training captain for a Cathay Pacific maybe, and traveling around the world. Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, fine. Not quite. No. And it's like anything, as I always say, be careful what you wish for, because sometimes it's not delivered in the package you want it. So yeah, it's like I thought I would never have a dog again. I can't walk a dog. I can't look after a dog, although I can. And now my other half runs a dog rescue, a charity. So we have dogs coming out the ears sometimes. So be careful what you wish for. So there's that. So I think we've come to a bit of a comma, a ... hiatus. So I'll hand over to John now, who will hopefully have some questions for us, for the two people that we've got left listening. So if you could come back on board, John, see what we've got.
Absolutely, really fascinating. I told you it'd be interesting. We do have a number of questions. You won't be surprised to hear. So we've got, you mentioned no leg, and it says, do you have a prosthetic? So you do have prosthetic, but is it like we see when Help for Heroes over here, that you can walk any distance, or is it just for aesthetics? How does the prosthetic work when you have no hip?
Right, the problem is, as I say, I've got the hip, but I haven't got anything to plug the leg into. So I have to wear armored boxer shorts. So the armored boxer shorts then has a connection underneath, a metal connection, metal angular contraption, and the leg attaches to it. So it's a bit like the Douglas Bader reach for the sky, when you have to swing to get the thing moving, because there's no movement in the leg. The current robotic legs do it all for you. You can program it on your laptop, depending on how much you want it to go forward or back, and it's programmed that if you fall, then it adjusts it. Okay, he's falling because it's a lot faster than I expected, so I'm going to stop it. So you come to a graduated halt halfway down, but they're hideously expensive. And I thought, well, do I spend my life fortune buying these flipping legs or not? Now, here in California, I'm in the wheelchair more often than not because it's just easier. There's going to be a ramp, there's going to be a toilet, there's going to be a big door. So that's what I use. The leg is, whilst it's usable, I can stand up. I used to use it on the Isle of Man to get around because it's a lot more difficult there. And it's not easy, because what happens is there's no sensory feedback. So the leg is metal beneath you, but I have to look down to make sure I know where the bugger is. Because if the heel goes down and strikes, that's what locks the knee, but it has to strike. And if it's a soft strike, the knee won't lock. You put your weight on it and you're going to go straight down. So then I have to keep looking where it is. So my head's down all the time. And so I walk into hanging baskets and, you know, signs and stuff like that. So you've got to be, it's not easy. It slows my walk really a lot down. Whereas in the chair, it's a lot easier. So I just stick in the chair really. It's just, because it's, you're sat in a church pew. Because it's like your sports car. You can't have a sports car with really soft Rolls-Royce suspension. Doesn't work, won't go around corners. So that's a bit like the harness. The harness is the best they're going to make. You can have a robotic legs, but the harness, there's no two ways about it. It's a leather harness. You're strapped into this armored boxer shorts, and that's the way it works. Not comfortable.
Okay. Did you? I mean, with another Chris was asking here, how much inspiration did you gain from life of Douglas Bader? He's saying his father lost a leg.
Oh yeah, well,
he was
Dougie's memory. He died before I joined the Air Force, but his memory kept me going in the Air Force, in the hospital. Even to the state, he lost, not say both his legs, but one above, one below the knee. He never used a stick, a cane, whereas I did. I had to, and my brain kept saying, you know, well, he never used a cane. I have to, but then it's rough with the smooth. It's different. You're not comparing apples with oranges. I lost the whole of my leg. He lost most of 2 legs, but he still had a good knee and 2 good thighs, and that's the important thing. And my wife, bless her, she goes hiking. I wish you could have a leg. You could walk up and down hills with me. Well, thanks for sharing, but yes, yeah, okay, that's the way it goes, really. Yeah, you can't do these things.
This is very interesting because I'm a RAFA ambassador. So this is a great question from David Hall. He says, thanks very much for your inspirational story, which it is, mate. I mean, obviously, I've just seen you drunk as a tornado navigator. I've really held you since. So I'm really fascinated, raising so many questions. What sort of support do you get from the Ben Fund or RAFA?
They gave me a lot of support initially when I was living in England still. I went to a couple of vacations, a hotel holidays in the places in England, and that was marvelous. And that was where it first opened my eyes to, hey, you can get big doors. You can get a control to do this, so you can do that. And even, you know, left-handed scissors. I never knew left-handed scissors were out on the market, but I am left-handed. And people say to me, oh, were you always left-handed? Well, actually, yes, I was, but I was always left-handed. So my writing's always been crap because it's left-handed. But yes, you start having to think, well, actually, I'm not asking the right questions, because every stage of the game, people say to you, well, ask any questions you want. All right, well, what questions do I need to ask? And you don't know until you got to someone who says, and they tried to get me into a group therapy show in the hospital but the only person they came up with had lost a whole leg was a 70-year-old farmer who'd stuck it in a combine harvester. And I said, well, actually, I want to go flying. That's my aim. And this is the whole point I say to people. People in the hospital, give them an aim. Don't poo-poo their aim. Oh yeah, I want to be a disabled astronaut. All right, well, we'll support you doing that. You probably can't do it, but don't tell them that. Just give them the support. And that's all I asked. And my parents were going, he wants to fly again. Are you kidding me? Can't you crawl under a blanket and stay here with us? No, I've done all that. So I never stayed at home again. It was just a case of, right, yeah, okay. I never went upstairs in the house again, and you have to carry on.
Okay, so so this is from, I'm assuming, I dare I say, shows my age as well, Frank Turner. So I'm assuming that's a XOC14. That was your old boss, because you were 14, weren't you?
I was 9.
9. Okay, sorry, yeah. But I don't know if that's the Frank Turner. No, hi, Frank. Long time no see. If that is the Frank I know. It said you have a false leg. So was it not any use to push the chopper pedals rather than use one leg to push and pull? So could you not? I mean, when you say it's all locked,
I understand. Yeah. So if I had a below knee amputation and I had a false foot, yes, it would work. Because I have nothing on that side, I can't push forward with my thigh. I haven't got one. So it's easier to dance across the pedals. Now, some airplanes I can't fly because the pedals are too far apart and I can't get my foot across both toe brakes. So I don't fly them. Simple as that. Cherokees, 152s, 172s, easy peasy. I can do that.
Okay. Do you ever see yourself coming back to Blighty or for good, or is now life
You'd
permanently
have to
stateside?
drag me kicking and screaming. I think I might go Cyprus maybe, or Spain, which it might be easier for me as an American than you English guys now. If I had to go back, but I'm a citizen over here, both sides of the Atlantic now, so I might as well stay here. I've got my life here, and I mean, the weather, you can't, I mean, you've got lovely weather behind you there, and your sun's going to be going down in a couple of hours. But yeah, that's one thing I do miss, is the evening sunlight. So the 10 o'clock reading the newspaper out on the patio, I miss that.
Yeah.
I do miss British beer. You can get some over here, but it's not quite the same. So yeah, I do miss that, but it's you know, roughly the same.
Just got a comment here of, and actually there was a really interesting when you're saying about this. I live, dare I say, I'm of the age where on Sunday night I have a glass of sherry and watch Country File. Shoot me, what happens to me? But there was a thing on now people who have disabled, whatever the right word is, I don't know, but saying Dame Tammy Gray Thompson was able to drive along Hadrian's Wall in a buggy, and there was an article on Country File now. There's buggies that enable disabled people to basically trek and ramble as fully able. Is your buggy? Have you got that sort of facility over there?
I've got a facility. I've got a buggy that actually collapses. It's electronic. It collapses on its own on power, and you can take it onto an airplane, and that works really nicely. It's heavy, but it's not that heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't have the full off-road thing, but in fact, the first time I used one a couple of years ago was in Dartmouth Forest, and my son who lives down that way. We went across, and they said, we can rent your son a bicycle. I thought, well, what's that good to me? Well, we got a cart for you, and I had an off-road cart and drove that through the forest, and that was tremendous. And that was the first time in 20 years I've been off-road, and that was wonderful. And I use all these. It fills my heart. I see a different side of people. I see people trying to help me get my wheelchair in and out of the car. There was a guy the other day, I'll just share this with you briefly. Huge black guy, enormous guy in this huge black car, lots of bling. And he pulled up outside my car and said, can I help you? And he was being genuinely. And there was a 90-year-old lady come up, can I help you, Sonny? I've got it, thank you very much. I see a different side of people, and I really do. You know, back in the old days, the Air Force days, when your hair's on fire and you just drink and get on with it, you don't see that. I now notice birds, sheep and cows and the noises, and it's just wonderful. It really is, and it's good to be alive.
But here's my reflection when I hear you speak. I mean, you're no different. You're always a cheerful chappie. That's what I remember really from Germany. You know, when we're in the bar, you're always a cheerful chappie and humorous. But behind, you know, the humility that you're displaying, you've always had that sense of humor. How long did it take you when you awoke and realized what had happened to come to terms with it? Because I'm assuming it's quite painful for a fair number of months, if not longer. How long did you get back to the Martin, which I see here, which is the old Martin? So besides, we're both older, I get that, but you're no different to what you were back then. But how long did it take you to really come to terms with, given anybody who's been in the Air Force, you know, you're fortunate enough that God gave you eyes and all, you know, eyes, arms, they all work, your aircrew, we all get used to that. But suddenly at such really a young age to have to come to terms with that.
It took me 3 years, and they were obviously the worst 3 years of my life. And my wife stayed with me for those 3 years, and then decided she wanted to leave. That's the way it goes. But it took me 3 years to start coming out of that funk, that depression, because it's a loss, like anything, you know, loss of a parent, loss of a loved one, loss of my leg, loss of all my income, all my jobs, but the job I worked for from all my life. It's just unbelievable. I look back and I read the book and reread my book and think, geez, I did that. These things are very cathartic. You have to write these stuff down, whether it's in a book or whether it's in a diary, because otherwise you do forget. And you think, I couldn't do that then. It took me 4 months, John, to stand up and have a pee, to have the strength to do that, which for the brain, the male brain, is very powerful. It's good to do that. and it took me, as I say, 4 months, but three months really to get to the stage where I was starting to come out of that fog. And then I remember saying to my wife at the time, not being too fine to point to it, I said, well, you know, can't you see the old Martin coming back? And she said, well, yeah, chinks in the dark clouds, but he might not come back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, you know, she doesn't want to be there, so that I don't want her there, really. So
Do you have any involvement? Another question from Chris. Do you have any involvement with Prince Harry's initiative with disabled vets? Because I know this sounds rather rather childish from my perspective. You know, we hear so many of the army veterans, but very rare we hear someone from an Air Force, because we do have different perspectives. Do you get involved with the Prince Harry initiative at all?
No, and I've tried to over here. I've tried to reach out to the army over here and say, look, I can talk to people and help them out and say it's not the end of the world. The majority of the army guys coming back, they've got 2, maybe even 3 limbs missing, sometimes 4. So actually an awful lot worse, in my opinion, than it is for me. However, no one's taken me up on that. So apart from the odd speaking engagement, they've not taken me up. And I thought this is a shame, really. But I haven't got involved with any of the British side of things. So over here, I don't know how much they do over here, really.
And how much is involved? How much is involved in the States? Are they better or worse than, from your experience of Britain, America? You know, because each country is good in parts, in different parts. So what is America good at for someone with your condition, and what is UK good at? And I'm assuming
the Americans are good at throwing money at it. So you're going to get the robotic legs. They do a lot of high profile stuff in the hospitals because, as you all know, people are surviving now, whereas they didn't. You know, whereas before they'd been blown up by an IED, they would probably die on the battlefield. Whereas now they're coming home, they're getting safe again, and then they're going to have to rehabilitate. The UK, they're good at the homes, and that was the thing that the Ben Fund really helped me out with as well. They looked after me, and they could, you know, you can do this and you can do that, and you can ask that question. I mean, half the time I had my own agenda. I'm going to do this, which I don't think is very. I think that's quite rare. But I had an aim. I'm going to fly again. Whereas I don't think many people have that. It's just a case of, oh my God, woe is me. And this is, and my other half said this when she read my book. She said, I thought it would be a woe is me book, but it isn't. It's a really well written. Not that advertising it for me, but it's. And I've written the second part. This first one finishes as I come to America, and the second one I'm just finishing now finishes as that next day, and how I stayed in America, my loves over here, how I date in America, my comedy in America. And I noticed there was a question earlier on about how do you cope with America? It's hilarious, you know, and there's no end of comedic input for a comedian out here because there's so much idiocy going on. And I'm not saying left or right. I'm just saying there's so much idiocy. It's just, it doesn't matter where it is, left or right.
So, I mean, did you need counselling to get that mindset? And did that help, or did this just, do you think, purely come from your own tenacity?
The counselling came because I thought I had PTSD. So I went back from the Isle of Man to a place that, and you may have come across this doctor, because this doctor counselled the guys that came back from the Gulf. And he said, no, you haven't got PSD because you have no memory. There's no flashbacks.
Yeah.
He said, my memory finishes 11 miles before my crash and starts again a month afterwards. So it's a good month to lose. But he said, you have no memory. So there's no PTSD. You just got grief overload because your dog died, your cat died, you lost your license and blah, blah, your wife left. So I went to the counselling people on the island and I said, look, can you help me out? So the lady came, the head of the department came to me. She said, well, tell me your story and I'll assess which counsellor is best for you. So I said, okay, right, here it is. And she sat back and went, wow, that's a pisser, isn't it? And that was the first time someone acknowledged it. Because my father, rest his soul, had always said, oh yeah, it could be worse, couldn't it? Well, yeah, but it's pretty bad. Yeah, but it could be worse. Well, yeah, it could be, but it belittles your feelings.
Yes.
It belittles the feelings, and I thought, well, what's the point? So I just, oh yeah, it's great, isn't it? I'm happy, yeah, no pain, that's great. Whereas she said, I'm going to treat you myself, and over the next couple of months, cognitive-based therapy, different words for different things and looking at things in a different way. And that was marvelously helpful, absolutely invaluable. And I would recommend people to do that. Not necessarily therapy, but CBT, cognitive-based therapy.
No, absolutely. No.
Different words.
I can't believe how quickly the hour's up, mate.
I know. Yes.
Bloody hell. I'm going to have to mention Diabotic because he's a wit himself. But there we go. He said, do you ever despair about the long-term prospects of teaching the USA about irony? But that's a whole nother conversation, I think, in the pub.
Yes.
It's like all speakers, even though I have known you, we didn't know each other that well. But so much more. I really found it fascinating. You know, although you make light of it, and I think those conversations at the end are fascinating, of just the honesty to say, actually, the dark place, and how eventually just that odd comment from someone to actually recognize, you know, in some ways going, yeah, you've done bloody well. And you've huge humility, but you so easily dismiss the first ever, you know, whether it's helicopter pilot, instructor pilot, and that just, it was more the way you looked when you looked and you said, but I wanted to fly. And that was, and that I think is classic, dare I say.
Well, it's the standard English thing, isn't it? You hide your light under a bushel. You don't say this, I've done this, I'm doing this, which you do in America. And I'm starting to get used to that. This is what I'm done, I'm blah, blah, blah. Okay.
But it's more than that. I do think it's part of, you know, as I say, we may in many respects be more light-hearted than the other services, but that underlying, people make a grave error of the classic aircrew banter, but what belies underneath. So thank you very much. We had loads of questions. Really enjoyed it, mate. Good to see, even though your taste in shirts is just appalling. You're becoming an American on your taste in shirt, mate. But there we go. Lovely to see you, and I'm sure we'll see you again. And next time you do please email me when you're next across, and we'll go for a beer. So
that's my plan.
So there we go. No, great to reconnect with you. If I could just do my bit as an RAF Club trustee, if Sophie, you could just put up the next slide for us, please. By the way, Frank, yes, I will. I'll contact. I've got the email. We'll contact because you're only down the road. So yeah, now we are allowed back in the pubs. Be good to see you again. Couple of future events, both of which I will go to because I missed the last Stanley Park wine tasting. So they supply you with wine, and it's basically a wine tasting. What could be finer? And introduce you to new wines. So that is on the 29th of April. And secondly, again, small old world, another friend of mine, Dr. Ruth Bryant-Jones. I work with her and she is going down a storm. She's a great believer in lifestyle medicine, but it doesn't put it down to character. She describes how and why the biology of our bodies makes us do bad things. And tiny little changes, it's not changing your character, tiny little changes can make a huge difference, but she describes the science behind it. So really fascinating, well worth listening to. So both those events, once again, I hope the RAF Club is furnishing you with some interesting things that you don't have to be in London. But now the club is pretty much open. So we have open doors. So please revisit the club for those who can. Book dinner, book lunch, have drinks, see your mates, and book rooms. Please do, because we're back open as we slowly but surely open up from the 17th of May. So we're very much looking forward to having everyone back. And if you can't make the club and you're in Scotland or hell, Martin, you're in the States, join, listen to Ruth, and maybe drink some wine. So thanks very much indeed. Thoroughly enjoyed seeing you again, Martin. Really enjoyed it. I can't believe how quick. And we look forward to seeing all the attendees. Thanks for all the great questions and have a good evening. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, and bye now.
Bye.